The forbidden signal. In the vast emptiness of space, where silence ruled and stars burned like ancient torches, the Earth Alliance Command Center received a signal that should not exist. Captain Ryland Carter, a battle-hardened soldier with sharp instincts, stood in front of the glowing holographic screen. His deep blue eyes narrowed as he listened to the static-filled message. The transmission was weak, broken, as if it had traveled through a storm of space debris. "This is Princess Aria Zenthara. Trapped. Need help. They will find me. Please, hurry. Before." The message cut off. Ryland clenched his jaw. The name Aria Zenthara was familiar, too familiar. She was the crown princess of the Zenthari Empire, one of the most advanced alien civilizations in the galaxy. A race that saw humans as nothing more than primitive creatures, unworthy of respect. "Are we sure this isn't a trap?" Lieutenant Kara Hayes, his second in command, asked, folding her arms. She was sharp, logical, and always suspicious of anything that smelled like a setup. "We checked the frequency 3 times, said Dr. Elias Ford, the ship's communication expert. "This is real." The signal came from the abandoned planet Sifos 9. Sifos 9, a war-torn planet, left in ruins after the Zenthari Empire fought against the Vorkan Dominion, a brutal alien race that thrived on conquest. No one went there. No one survived there. Ryland ran a hand through his short, dark hair. If this was true, then the princess of an enemy empire was stranded in hostile territory. If they saved her, humanity could gain a powerful ally. But if this was a trap, it could mean war. He looked at his crew. "We don't have much time. If she's alive, she won't last long. We go in, find her, and get out. Fast." Kara exhaled, shaking her head. "I hope you know what you're doing, Captain." Ryland wasn't sure he did. Approaching Sifos 9. The Starlight, Ryland's sleek, battle-ready ship, descended toward Sifos 9, its engines humming softly. The planet below was a dead world, covered in smoke, ruins, and the wreckage of old battleships. Storms of dust and lightning crackled across the surface, making it hard to see. Ryland and his 4-member landing team strapped on their exosuits and weapons. As the ship entered the planet's atmosphere, an eerie feeling settled over the crew. "This place gives me the creeps," Sergeant Dax, the team's weapons specialist, muttered. "Stay sharp," Ryland ordered. "We're not alone here." The ship's AI, no VA, beeped. "Captain, I am detecting multiple energy signatures on the surface. Unknown if hostile." "Great," Kara sighed. "Looks like we're walking into a minefield." The descent into danger. The team landed in the remains of an old Zenthari city, its towering structures now reduced to crumbling ruins. Fires burned in the distance, and the wind carried whispers of the past, the echoes of war. Ryland activated his scanner, tracking the coordinates of the distress signal. It was close, too close. "Move out," he commanded. The squad moved carefully, stepping over debris, their weapons ready. Every shadow felt like it was watching them. Then something moved. A flash of silver darted between the ruins. Ryland raised his rifle. "Who's there?" Silence. Then, a gunshot. The ground exploded beside them, throwing dust into the air. "Cover," Kara yelled. The team dove behind fallen pillars, returning fire. Their attackers were hidden snipers, positioned high above. "We walked into an ambush." Dax cursed. Ryland's mind raced. They had only been on the planet for 5 minutes, yet someone was already waiting for them. Was it the Vorkan? Or was this something else? Then, out of nowhere, a second signal pinged on his scanner. Coordinates updated. It wasn't coming from a building. It was coming from beneath the ground. The princess, Ryland realized. She's underground. But before they could react, a voice echoed through their earpieces, a deep mechanical voice that was not human. "Humans, you should not have come here." Ryland's stomach dropped. This was not just an ambush. Something far worse was waiting for them. Shadows on the battlefield. The ruins of Xiphos 9 stretched far and wide, a graveyard of forgotten battles. Broken towers leaned against each other like dying giants, their steel skeletons covered in ash and vines. Smoke curled through the air, carrying the scent of scorched metal, and something worse, the lingering stench of death. Captain Ryland Carter crouched behind a fallen pillar, his pulse steady but his mind racing. The ambush had come too fast. Someone, or something, had been waiting for them. His earpiece crackled as Lieutenant Kara Hayes whispered, "2 snipers on the South Ridge. Maybe more." Sergeant Dax, the squad's weapons expert, gritted his teeth. "We gotta move, Captain. We're sitting ducks." But Ryland wasn't listening. His gaze was locked on the scanner display on his wrist. The distress signal from Princess Area Zenthera was no longer above ground. It was coming from beneath them. Something about that made his gut tighten. Why underground? Was she hiding? Captured? Or was this a trap within a trap? A distant whirring sound cut through the air, growing louder. Ryland's stomach dropped. "They have drones." The moment he spoke, a metallic sphere zipped into view above the ruins. A sleek, floating machine with a single glowing red eye. A hunter drone. It hovered for a second, then let out a sharp beep. They had been spotted. The drone's eye flashed. A high-pitched shriek tore through the ruins. An alarm signal. "Move-y," Ryland barked. The squad burst into action. Kara and Dax opened fire, blasting the drone apart before it could send a full transmission. But it was too late. The snipers knew exactly where they were now. Bullets rained down from above, cracking against stone and sending dust into the air. The squad dove between fallen walls, using the ruins as cover. Kara gritted her teeth. "We're not gonna last long out here." Ryland made a decision. They had to go underground. "The distress signal," he said. "It's coming from below. We find a way in. Now." Dax hesitated. "Captain, we don't even know what's down there." Ryland's voice was firm. "We know what's up here, and that's worse." No one argued. They were outnumbered and running out of time. The descent into darkness. The squad sprinted across the ruins, dodging gunfire and diving through collapsed buildings. Ryland's scanner led them toward a large stone platform, partially buried under wreckage. Kara wiped sweat from her brow. "What is this?" Ryland knelt and brushed away the dust, revealing a circular Zentheri emblem carved into the stone. A hatch. He pressed a button on his wrist scanner. The ground rumbled. Dust spilled from cracks as a hidden doorway groaned open, revealing a dark tunnel leading down into the unknown. "This must have been a bunker," Kara muttered. Dax exhaled. "Great. We're about to walk into an alien dungeon." A deafening explosion rocked the ruins behind them. The enemy was closing in. "No choice," Ryland said. "Go." One by one, the squad slipped inside. The hatch sealed shut above them, cutting off the light. Darkness swallowed them whole. Beneath the surface, the air was thick and stale, filled with the scent of damp metal. Dim blue lights flickered along the tunnel walls, casting eerie shadows. The ground beneath their boots was smooth, polished, not ruins, but something still functional. Kara frowned. "This place isn't abandoned." Ryland's gut agreed. He checked his scanner again. The distress signal was close. A soft humming noise filled the air. Faint, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. Dax tightened his grip on his rifle. "I don't like this." Ryland motioned for silence. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Something was moving in the darkness ahead. A shadow emerged from the tunnel. Tall, cloaked in a dark metallic robe. Its eyes glowed a dull silver, reflecting the blue tunnel lights. Ryland raised his weapon. "Identify yourself." The figure stopped. Then, in a voice as smooth as glass, it said, "You should not have come here." The squad froze. Ryland's mind worked fast. The voice was Xanthari, the same race as the princess. But this figure was not a soldier, not a human, not entirely alive. "Where is Princess Aria?" Ryland demanded. The figure tilted its head, as if amused. "The princess is waiting for you." Kara's fingers tightened on the trigger. "Where?" The figure raised a hand. The tunnel lights flickered, and then the floor gave way beneath them. The squad plunged into darkness. The Chamber of Secrets. Ryland landed hard. His visor display blinked red, air pressure stabilizing, gravity normal. Dim golden lights flooded the chamber, revealing a massive underground Xanthari vault. Strange symbols covered the walls. This place was ancient. But Ryland wasn't looking at the walls. He was looking at her. In the center of the chamber, inside a glowing containment field, stood Princess Aria Xanthara. She was tall and elegant, her silver-blue hair cascading over her shoulders like flowing water. Her piercing violet eyes locked onto Ryland's, filled with something he didn't expect. Not fear, not relief, but warning. "You shouldn't have come," she said softly. "Now they know." Ryland's blood ran cold. Who knows? Before she could answer, a metallic roar echoed from the depths of the vault. Something huge was waking up. Something not human. Something that had been waiting for them. A princess with a dark secret. The air inside the Xanthari vault was thick with energy. Not just any energy, but something ancient and alive. The golden lights flickered, casting long shadows against the curved metallic walls, and in the center of it all, inside a containment field of shimmering light, stood Princess Aria Xanthara. Captain Ryland Carter barely had time to process what he was seeing before the ground shook violently. A deep metallic roar echoed through the chamber, like the sound of a sleeping giant stirring after centuries. Dust and debris trickled from the high ceiling, and something massive, was waking up. "Aria," Ryland called, gripping his weapon tightly. "We're here to get you out." But the princess didn't move. She just stared at him. Her violet eyes glowed softly under the containment field's light. There was no surprise, no fear, only an unsettling calm. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. Ryland's pulse spiked. What the hell did that mean? Behind him, Lieutenant Kara Hayes and Sergeant Dax were scrambling back to their feet, their weapons aimed at the shadows surrounding the vault. The figure that had led them into the trap, the tall, cloaked Xanthari sentinel, was gone. But they weren't alone. From the darkness beyond the chamber, dozens of red eyes flickered to life. Dax exhaled a curse. Oh, hell no. The Forgotten Guardians. The first Guardian stepped into the light. It was a machine. Taller than a man, sleeker than a tank. Black Xanthari alloy coated its sharp, insect-like body, and its faceplate gleamed like liquid steel. Its movements were eerily smooth, its clawed hands twitching with unnatural precision. Then another stepped forward, and another. Soon, the entire vault was filled with them. A forgotten army, their bodies untouched by time, their programming undisturbed. Until now. Kara swallowed hard. "I think we just woke up something we weren't supposed to." Ryland clenched his jaw. No turning back now. He took a cautious step toward Aria. She hadn't moved. "Aria, listen to me." He kept his voice steady. "Who are they? What is this place?" She finally blinked, as if coming out of a trance. They were built for one purpose. Her voice was quiet, but every word hit like a hammer. To destroy anyone who threatens the Xanthari Empire. Kara stiffened, including us. The Guardians moved. A deep, rhythmic humming filled the chamber, growing louder as the machines activated their internal power cores. The air pulsed with energy. Aria nodded. "Including you." A desperate escape. Ryland didn't hesitate. Weapons free. "Move." The first Guardian lunged. Its razor-sharp claws sliced through the air, barely missing Dax as he dove sideways. Kara opened fire. sending bursts of plasma rounds into the machine's chest, but the shots barely scratched its armor. The Guardians were too fast, too strong. Ryland's mind raced. Fighting was suicide. They had to get out. Now. His gaze locked onto the containment field. Area. If she was important enough to protect, then she was important enough to fight for. "Can you shut it down?" he asked her. She hesitated. "You don't understand what's happening." "Area, we don't have time for riddles," Ryland shouted. One of the Guardians lunged at him. He dodged just in time, its claws slamming into the ground where he'd been standing. The impact cracked the metallic floor like glass. Kara gritted her teeth. "We're outgunned here, Captain." Area finally moved. She closed her eyes, and the energy field around her flickered, then collapsed. In that moment, something changed. The entire chamber shook violently as a strange pulse of energy erupted from her body. And then, the Guardian stopped. The power she feared. The machines froze mid-step, their glowing red eyes flickering like dying embers. Their sharp mechanical limbs trembled as if fighting an unseen force. Then, slowly, they turned away and knelt before her. Ryland's breath hitched. Kara whispered, "What the hell just happened?" Dax was still gripping his gun, but his hands were shaking. Did she just command them? Area exhaled deeply, looking exhausted. "They weren't built to protect me," she murmured. "They were built to obey me." Ryland took a step closer. "You knew this would happen." She turned her gaze to him, and for the first time, he saw something new in her eyes. Not just power, but fear. "Why were you locked away?" he asked. "Who did this to you?" Area hesitated. Then, softly, she whispered, "My own people. The truth of the Empire." Her words hung in the air like a death sentence. Ryland narrowed his eyes. "Why would they do that? You're the heir to the throne." Area's fingers clenched into fists. "Because I'm not like them." She turned to the motionless Guardians, still kneeling, waiting for her command. "The Xanthari Empire is the strongest civilization in the galaxy," she said. "But they didn't build it through peace. They built it through fear, conquest." She looked back at Ryland. "They feared what I would become." The word sent a chill down his spine. "And what is that?" Area's lips parted, but before she could answer, an explosion rocked the chamber. The walls cracked apart, and from the tunnel above, a deafening, mechanical voice boomed down at them. "Traitor DTDCTD. Termination Protocol engaged." Ryland's heart slammed against his ribs. Whatever was coming for them now, it was worse than the Guardians. Area's eyes darkened. "We need to leave." She raised her hands, and the kneeling Guardians turned their glowing eyes upward, toward the new threat. And then, without another word, she gave her first order. "Destroy it." The Guardians rose as one. The hunter from the void. The air inside the Xanthari vault vibrated with raw energy. Dust and debris fell like rain from the trembling ceiling. The Guardians, once ancient and still, now stood alive and waiting, their glowing red eyes locked onto the entrance. And above, from the cracked tunnels leading back to the surface, came a voice that did not belong to anything human. "Traitor DTCTD. Termination Protocol engaged." The words echoed like a death sentence. Captain Ryland Carter didn't know what kind of monster was coming for them, but his instincts screamed, "Run." He turned to Princess Area Xanthara, but she was already moving. With a single command, her voice steady and sharp, she spoke to the Xanthari Guardians in their ancient language. "Annihilate the intruder." The Guardians lurched forward, their massive mechanical bodies moving with terrifying speed. Their clawed limbs clicked against the vault floor, and in perfect unison, they rushed toward the entrance. And then, the ceiling exploded. The hunter arrives. A blast of searing blue light tore through the vault's entrance. Metal melted like wax. The nearest guardian disintegrated in an instant, its body collapsing into molten shards. From the smoke, a shadow emerged, something tall, armored, and utterly inhuman. It wasn't like the guardians. It was sleeker, faster, and far more deadly. As it stepped into the flickering light, Ryland's gut twisted. The hunter was almost twice his height, its black alloy plating adorned with glowing golden etchings, forming intricate patterns that pulsed with life. Its face was smooth metal, featureless except for two glowing white eyes that burned like stars. And in its hands, it held a weapon that hummed with energy older than humanity itself. Aria's voice was barely above a whisper. "It's a Praetorian." Ryland's blood turned to ice. He had heard of them in war reports, but never seen one. The Zenthari Praetorians were not soldiers. They were executioners, built to hunt and eliminate anything that defied the Zenthari Empire. And right now, its target was Aria. The chase begins. The Praetorian moved faster than anything that size should. It vanished in a blur, reappearing in the middle of the vault. A guardian lunged forward. But before it could strike, the Praetorian raised its hand. A blade of pure energy ignited from its wrist, and in a single precise motion, it sliced the guardian in half. Sparks and metal scattered across the floor as the destroyed machine collapsed. Ryland yanked Aria back just as the Praetorian's weapon slashed toward them. The blade carved into the vault wall, cutting through it like paper. "We can't fight that thing," Kara yelled. Ryland knew she was right. The Guardians charged forward, engaging the Praetorian in battle, their massive bodies smashing against it with full force. Explosions lit up the vault. Metal clashed, sparks flew, and energy beams cut through the darkness. But Ryland wasn't going to stick around to see how this fight ended. He grabbed Aria's wrist. "We need to leave. Now." She didn't resist. The squad sprinted toward the back of the vault, dodging fallen debris and broken machinery. There, Dax pointed to a tunnel leading deeper underground. "That passage might get us out." Ryland didn't care where it led. Anywhere was better than here. Behind them, the Praetorian ripped through another guardian like it was nothing, its unrelenting white eyes locked onto Aria. They ran. Secrets beneath the vault. The tunnel was narrow and steep, sloping downward at a dangerous angle. The deeper they went, the more the walls changed, from smooth Zenthari metal to something older, covered in glowing symbols. Aria suddenly stopped. Ryland almost crashed into her. "What the hell are you doing? We have to keep moving." She turned, her eyes shining with realization. "No, we're not running anymore," she said. "This is where I make my stand." Kara swore. "Are you crazy? That thing just wiped out a whole army of killer machines. What do you think you can do?" Aria lifted her hand. The symbols on the walls began to glow brighter, pulsing in time with her heartbeat. "This place," she whispered. "It's older than the Empire. It was built for me." Then she pressed her palm against the wall. The entire chamber shook. Energy surged through the walls, running like veins of liquid light. The floor beneath them rippled with power. And suddenly, the tunnel wasn't just a tunnel anymore. It was a throne room. Massive pillars rose from the ground. A circular platform formed in the center, and at its heart stood an ancient control panel, glowing with unknown energy. The moment Aria stepped onto the platform, the walls came alive. And for the first time since they had met her, Ryland saw something terrifying. She belonged here. This wasn't just a hiding place. This was her place. The ground trembled as the entrance behind them collapsed, sealing them inside. The Praetorian's voice echoed from the other side of the rubble. "You cannot escape." Aria turned to Ryland, her expression unreadable. "You wanted to know why my people fear me," she said. She reached out, touched the control panel, and suddenly, the entire structure roared to life. Betrayal among the stars. The chamber hummed with power, ancient energy pulsing through its massive walls like a sleeping god beginning to stir. The symbols that had once been dormant and forgotten now burned with a radiant glow. The very air felt alive, charged with something far beyond human understanding. And at the heart of it all, standing on the central platform, was Princess Aria Zenthera. Her silver-blue hair shimmered under the pulsating lights, and her violet eyes burned with something different this time, something Rylan wasn't sure he could trust. She had said this place was built for her. But the real question was, what for? The enemy beyond the door. The massive vault doors behind them shook violently. Outside, beyond the rubble, the Praetorian was still coming. Its voice, cold, mechanical, and absolute, echoed through the sealed passage. Subject identified, ARISCNTHAR. Activating suppression protocol. Then, boom. The sound of something massive slamming into the wall made Rylan's heart pound. Cracks spread like lightning across the stone and metal. It wouldn't hold for long. Aria's decision. Rylan gripped his weapon. His squad, Kara, Dax, and Elias, stood behind him, breathing hard. They were running out of time. He turned to Aria. If you have a plan, now would be a really good time to share it. She didn't answer immediately. Her hands hovered over the control panel, her expression unreadable. Kara's patience snapped. You said this place was built for you. What the hell does that mean? Aria finally looked up. It means I was never meant to rule, she said softly. Rylan frowned. Then what were you meant for? Aria hesitated, then pressed her palm flat against the control panel. A deep rumbling spread through the chamber. From the walls, mechanical arms unfolded, revealing rows upon rows of dormant war machines, statues of power, standing silently like forgotten guardians. Kara exhaled sharply. This isn't just a throne room. Rylan swallowed. It was a weapons vault. Aria's voice was quiet. This is what they feared. Not me. What I could awaken. The truth of the Empire. The Zentheri Empire had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had erased entire civilizations, rewritten history, and crushed rebellion after rebellion. Their power was unmatched, their control absolute. But that power had come at a cost. They had taken something from themselves, something so dangerous, so uncontrollable, that they had buried it, sealed it away. Aria was the key. A living, breathing genetic trigger designed to unlock what should have never been unlocked. Do you understand now? She said. My own people didn't exile me. They didn't imprison me. She looked at the weapons around her, and the massive energy core now rising from the center of the platform. They built me to be a weapon, and when they realized what I could do, they tried to destroy me. The Praetorian breaks through. Boom. The vault doors exploded inward, sending shards of metal and stone flying. The Praetorian stepped through the smoke, completely untouched. It had killed every guardian outside. Now it was here to finish its mission. Its glowing white eyes locked onto Aria. Subject LOCATED, it announced. Termination proceeding. And then it moved, faster than anything should be able to move. One moment it was at the entrance. The next, it was standing right in front of Aria, its energy blade already slicing downward. Rylan acted on instinct. He tackled her out of the way, the blade missing her by inches. The ground split open where it struck, sending an electric shockwave through the chamber. Scatter, Rylan shouted. Kara and Dax opened fire, but their bullets bounced off the Praetorian's armor like raindrops on steel. Aria scrambled to her feet, eyes burning with determination. She reached out, and the vault responded. A pulse of blue energy erupted from the control panel, racing up the walls. The dormant war machines shuddered, then turned their heads toward the Praetorian. The betrayal. For the first time, the Praetorian hesitated. It turned its head slightly, as if calculating a new threat, and then, in a move no one expected, it spoke. Not to Aria, not to Rylan, but to Kara. Co and fire Armid. Human command QODDTKT. Humid KRAHAYES. ACCESS granted. Time froze. Ryland's blood ran cold. What? Before anyone could react, Kara turned, and shot him. The blast hit Ryland square in the chest, sending him sprawling backward. His vision blurred as pain ripped through him. Dax yelled. Elias cursed. Kara's face was blank, her expression unreadable. But when she spoke, her voice was full of something worse than hatred. Regret. I'm sorry, Captain. The Praetorian turned back to Area. Primary tar GTCQURD. Preparing X to RH. Area's eyes widened. She had trusted Kara. Kara had betrayed them all. The final decision. Ryland's breath was shallow. His chest burned from the blast, but his mind was racing. This wasn't just about Area anymore. This was about humanity. Had the Earth Alliance made a deal with the Zenthari? Had they traded Area for peace? Everything was spinning. Kara looked at him one last time, then turned away. The Praetorian lifted Area off the ground, its armor glowing with energy as it prepared to leave. Area fought back, screaming, reaching out toward Ryland. And as the light consumed her, as the Praetorian vanished into thin air, taking her with it, Ryland swore one thing. He was going to get her back, no matter what it cost. The choice of humanity. The silence after the betrayal was deafening. The Zenthari Praetorian was gone, vanishing in a blinding burst of energy, taking Princess Area Zenthara with it. The air still crackled with the aftershock of its departure, leaving behind only ruins, smoke, and the shattered trust of a team once bound by loyalty. And on the cold, dust-covered floor, Captain Ryland Carter lay gasping, his chest burning where Kara Hayes' energy blast had struck him. His breath was ragged, his pulse hammering in his ears. She had betrayed him. Betrayed them all. The weight of betrayal. Ryland. Dax's voice barely cut through the haze. Strong hands gripped Ryland's shoulders, pulling him upright. His vision blurred, flickering between darkness and light. He could hear Elias swearing, hear Dax's heavy breathing, but nothing mattered. Kara. She was gone. He had fought beside her for years, trusted her with his life, and in the end, she had been working with the enemy. His mind reeled as he replayed the moment in his head. Human command QODDTKT. Humid KRAHAYES. ACCESS granted. What the hell did that mean? Had she been working for the Zenthari Empire all along? Or was Earth involved? That question made his stomach twist. If the Earth Alliance had secretly aligned itself with the Zenthari, then this wasn't just a mission gone wrong. This was treason against humanity itself. The warship in the sky. A deep rumble echoed from above. Ryland forced himself to his feet, ignoring the burning pain in his chest. Dax and Elias followed his gaze upward, watching as a massive shadow loomed over the ruins of Sci-Fi 9. A ship. No, not just a ship. A Zenthari warship. It hovered in the storm-filled sky, its massive structure blotting out the stars, glowing symbols lining its hull like a cathedral carved from obsidian. Dax clenched his jaw. We need to get the hell out of here. Ryland agreed, but he wasn't leaving without answers. A dangerous transmission. The Starlight, their ship, was still operational. Barely. They boarded fast, lifting off before the warship could react. The control panels flickered, showing damage warnings, but it didn't matter. Ryland hacked into the ship's long-range comm system. He was done following orders. He needed the truth. He bypassed every security lock he could find, tapping directly into a private Earth Alliance frequency. A holographic display flickered to life. And there, standing in the dim glow of a war room, was Admiral Elias Voss, one of the most powerful men in the Earth Alliance. His face remained unreadable, but his cold, steel-gray eyes locked onto Ryland's with a knowing intensity. "You should not have called me, Captain Carter." Ryland didn't waste time. "You knew." A long pause. Then, "I did." Dax swore under his breath. Ryland's fists clenched. "We risked our lives to rescue that girl. You sent us into enemy territory without telling us that she was never meant to be saved." Voss tilted his head slightly, as if considering his next words carefully. "Aria Zenthera is not an innocent. She is not a victim. She is a genetic anomaly created by the Zenthari, and she is dangerous." Ryland narrowed his eyes. "Then why did they lock her away? If she was their weapon, why fear her?" Voss sighed, rubbing his temple. "Because she is too powerful. Even the Zenthari cannot control what she is becoming. And neither can we." A cold dread settled over Ryland. They weren't just letting the Zenthari take her. They were afraid of her. Afraid of what she might become. A terrible choice. Ryland exhaled, his mind racing. The Earth Alliance had made its decision. They had chosen fear over freedom. They had chosen control over truth. And now, they expected him to do the same. "You're ordering me to stand down," Ryland said bitterly. Voss met his gaze. "I'm ordering you to come home." Ryland clenched his jaw. A silence stretched between them, and then Voss added, "I know you, Carter. You think you can save her. But if you go after her, you are making an enemy of Earth itself." Dax and Elias turned to Ryland, waiting for his decision. There was no going back now. If he followed orders, he would be safe. If he disobeyed, he would be hunted. But then he thought of Aria. He thought of her standing in that chamber, unlocking something older than the Empire itself. And for the first time since he met her, he was afraid. Not of what she was, but of what would happen if she fell into the wrong hands. She had trusted him, and he had sworn to get her back. Ryland took a deep breath. He made his choice. He turned to Elias. "Shut down the transmission." Elias hesitated, but obeyed. The hologram vanished. Ryland stepped toward the controls, gripping the navigation system with renewed determination. He turned to his crew. "We're going after her." Dax grinned. "Damn right we are." Elias exhaled sharply. "We're fugitives now." Ryland smirked. "Then let's make it count." The starlight roared as it changed course, leaving behind the war-torn planet. The mission had changed. This was no longer a rescue. This was a rebellion. The final decision. The starlight tore through the darkness of space, its engines burning hot as it raced toward the heart of the Zenthari Empire. Captain Ryland Carter had made his choice. He was no longer just a soldier, no longer following orders. He was a fugitive, a man hunted by his own people, by the Zenthari, and by the most powerful war machines in the galaxy. And all of it was for one reason. Aria. Somewhere out there, she was trapped inside a fortress, surrounded by those who feared her, or wanted to use her. But Ryland had seen her power. He had felt the energy inside that ancient vault. She wasn't just a princess. She wasn't just a prisoner. She was something more. And if he didn't reach her in time, humanity might never get another chance to decide its own fate. The mission: infiltrate the Zenthari throne world. The Zenthari throne world was a fortress like no other. A planet-sized megastructure hanging on the edge of a dying star, its surface covered in spires of black metal, each one stretching toward the void like the teeth of a hungry beast. This was the center of their empire, a place where no human had ever set foot and lived. Inside, Aria was being held in the prime chamber, an ancient structure buried deep beneath the planet's core, where the rulers of the Zenthari kept their most dangerous secrets. And now, she was one of them. Ryland stood at the command deck, his crew watching him closely. Dax, Elias, two of the best soldiers he had ever fought with, and now his only family left. "We're going in," he said, voice steady. "One way or another, we're getting her back." Dax smirked. "You got a plan for breaking into the most heavily guarded city in the universe." Rylan exhaled. Yeah. He turned toward the viewport, where a massive warship loomed in the distance, one of Earth's own fleet carriers. We're stealing a warship. Betrayal and war. The plan was insane. But then again, so was going to war against an empire. They approached the Earth Alliance fleet, using old clearance codes Rylan still had access to. The moment they got close enough, they docked in one of the warship's hangars. Then they moved fast. Rylan's team stormed the bridge, neutralizing the officers before they could send a distress signal. Elias hacked into the ship's Xanthari tracking database, and there it was, Aria's location. They had her. And that was when the alarms started blaring. A cold, familiar voice rang out over the ship's intercom. Captain Carter. Rylan's breath stilled. He knew that voice. It was Admiral Elias Voss. And he was here. The choice that could change everything. The holographic screen on the bridge flickered, and Voss appeared. His expression was unreadable. Rylan, he said, you've gone too far. Rylan clenched his fists. I haven't gone far enough. Voss shook his head. You don't understand what you're doing. You think you're saving her, but you're making a mistake. Rylan stepped forward, fire burning in his veins. Then explain it to me, Admiral. Explain why we're giving up humanity's best chance at survival. Voss was silent for a long moment. Then, finally, he spoke. Because she isn't just powerful. She's uncontrollable. The words cut deep. Voss continued, his voice calm, as if explaining something simple. Do you know what she really is, Carter? What she was made for? Rylan didn't answer. Voss exhaled. She was designed to evolve. The Xanthari created her as a way to break their own genetic limits. But they failed. She became something else, something that shouldn't exist. A pit formed in Rylan's stomach. You're afraid of her. Voss nodded. I'm afraid of what she'll do when she finally realizes what she is. A cold dread settled in Rylan's chest. Was he wrong? Was he saving someone who could one day destroy them all? Voss's voice softened. Stand down, Captain. Turn back. Humanity needs to be careful about the future it chooses. Rylan's hands curled into fists. His heart pounded. And then he made his choice. No. Voss's face darkened. Then you are no longer one of us. And with that, the hologram cut out. The ship lurched violently, the engines powering down. They were being locked out. And outside, the entire Earth fleet turned toward them. The battle for Aria. Rylan had no more time. Elias, override the lockdown, he ordered. Already on it. Elias's fingers flew over the console. But we're outnumbered. If they open fire. They won't. Rylan cut in. Because we're getting out before they can. The ship shook again, but then the engines roared back to life. We're free. Elias shouted. Rylan didn't hesitate. They jumped to hyperspace. The rescue. The Xanthari throne world loomed ahead. They had made it. No more talking. No more questions. This was it. They'd breached the planetary defenses, using the warship's stolen codes to land inside the fortress itself. The entire structure trembled with energy as they fought their way through the halls, blasting through Xanthari guards. And then they reached her. Aria was inside a massive containment chamber, her arms locked inside an energy field. But she wasn't struggling. She was waiting. She lifted her gaze as Rylan entered, and for the first time she smiled. I knew you'd come. Rylan ran to her, but before he could free her, the entire chamber shook. And then the walls split apart. A deep, ancient voice filled the air. You are too late. A shadow moved in the darkness, something bigger than anything they had faced before. And for the first time, even Aria looked afraid. The final war begins. Rylan had rescued her, but now he had to face what she truly was. And the battle for the fate of humanity was only beginning.